What's up, everyone? This is Christian Duke, and you're watching Strengthaddicts here on Instagram Live, brought to you courtesy of BlackstoneLabs.com, the holy grail of bodybuilding supplements, guys. Check out the isolation, one of my personal favorites. Also, Glycolog. Glycolog allows you to have carbs and not feel like. So go on over to BlackstoneLabs.com, and if you're looking to get involved in the fitness industry, there is no better way to do so than by applying to join the Blackstone Labs Legion. Do it today. Also, big thank you to our supporting sponsor, TitanMedicalCenter.com, for all your hormone replacement therapies, glutathione, amino acids, the new ECA Plus stack, and all of, I got to tell you something, guys, their therapies, the Titan therapy is just the serum of the gods, the potion of the gods. They have so many different therapies that you should check out. We got Todrick in the house. We got Lana in the house, future Mrs. Dykes. We got Omni Muscle. I also want to remind you guys that it's 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, so in about 45 minutes, we'll have Larry Hill, fresh off his big win. He'll be joining us. And then tomorrow, Thursday, 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time at StrengthAddicts.com and all related platforms, we will have the Steve Weingarten interview from the Brick House Bodybuilding Gym here in Louisville, Kentucky. And if you guys are not familiar with Steve, you must live under a rock. But Steve is probably one of the greatest contest prep coaches in this region, if not in the country. So familiarize yourself with him. And he built this gym literally piece by piece, by hand. It is truly a labor of love. So I am touched that he is inviting me in there. It'll be my first in-person interview, I think, since COVID started. So that's pretty wild. Also, we got GK Fit in the house, fresh off his 2-year anniversary with the Blackstone Labs Legion. So congratulations to that, to you on that. All right, so we're going to bring Scott on board. We got Glenn in the house from the Mitten State. We got Annie from Lift Inc. Who else is in here? We got a bunch of people in here. So we're going to have a good old time, and we're going to talk about a lot of pretty important things. What's up, my man?
What's up?
How you been?
I've been doing pretty well. Just been resting and recovering and, splurging a little bit here and there on some food.
Definitely. So first and foremost, it's been a while since I've seen you. I saw you last with Eli in Pittsburgh, and we did the interview. That backdrop that I had, that was so cool. I loved it. Who knows where that backdrop is now? But anyways, all of our interviews, whether in Pittsburgh, whether in Northern Kentucky at Jeff and Angie Sherman's shows, have always been, I think, just really passionate interviews. I mean, there's always a lot in them. And I want to talk about, how you discovered bodybuilding, where you came from when you discovered bodybuilding, and of course, this second chapter in your bodybuilding career. But before anything, you just competed recently this past weekend. How did that go?
It went well. It was a really, really tough prep, coming off some injuries and COVID and being sick and everything. It was fun. Of course, it's always fun when it ends the way you want it to. Everybody competed extremely hard. It was a lot of good competition. Like you said, as a second chapter, so a lot of differences and changes in the way that I prepped and the way that I worked my way to the stage. Had to learn a new system, and my new coach and I had to work together to learn each other. I mean, we've known each other for quite a long time, but never worked together. But it was very fun. It was long, and I had forgotten how the process works. We got it there a little early. That way, when all the 400 contestants showed up, that it wasn't so hectic and crazy. So I got up there early and knew where everything, just so I get an idea where everything was, because I had this feeling that the folks at the Galt House wasn't going to have a clue, and they didn't even know we were having an event. So I got there early. I was able to call the tanning place and got a hold of Gene Good, and then they told me where it was going to be. And I was ready to go on Friday when everybody was running around with like a chicken with their head cut off. So I got in line, was ready to go. And then the next day, was showtime. Started my meal, first meal at 4:30 in the morning. 3 hours later, got it right before, and got my touch-up tan, and then got my second meal in right before athletes meeting, and then backstage at 10 and took a nap, and best I could until I got on stage about 2 o'clock for the prejudging. And but it was a blast. They did a really good production. My parents got to go, my folks got to go, and my fiance got to go. So that was great. I had a lot of friends that came and watched. So yeah, I had a blast. I'd forgotten how fun it was, and it was a blast.
That's so awesome. And I think it's, I'm big on last names. My last name's Duke, and I hate when people say, is your last name Dookie? I'm like, no, it's not. It's Duke. Thanks for asking. But you got Gene's last name perfect. You said good. I mean, that's exactly how you say the man's last name.
Yeah.
But so many times people name drop him, because he's like, he's an important guy. And they're like, oh, yeah, like I've been friends with Gene Good forever. I'm like, well, you don't even know how to say his last name. So, so I think it's cool that you nailed that perfectly. And he's got a show coming up in August. I saw the graphic there, and it looks pretty tight. And who knows if you'll do that show? I know in bodybuilding, you never want to, announce shows that you're going to do, especially like way down the road, because you may not do them. But it looks like a great show there at the Rupp Arena there, and I think it'll be a knockout. But you have a new coach, so you had an old coach, and now you have a new coach, and Chauncey is fantastic. I mean, he's very, very good. Your old coach was really good too. And but I think it's crazy how you and Chauncey knew each other in high school, and here you are now working together on bodybuilding shows. And he's a junior USA champion. I mean, he's like a very decorated competitor himself.
Yeah, first and foremost, I'm not sitting here without Eli. So I was I'm very thankful for the journey we had together and things that I learned from him. It was very special. In sports, changes happen. But I've known Chauncey for 20 plus years. I was a high school football coach and track coach, and he was my first athlete on the first team I coached. So it's a funny story. I was assistant football coach, a running back coach, and he was my running back. And the old coach wouldn't let the football players run track, and I was the head track coach too. So when I got hired in, we had a new coach, and I said to him, I said, hey, man, we had a state champion cross country team. So we had the distance, we were winning state every year, but as a team we weren't, because our sprinting court wasn't very good. So all the fast kids were on the football team, wouldn't come out. So I asked the coach, I said, hey, man, let me have the sprinters. It's springtime. They're working on speed anyway. I take that way, it lessens all the guys in the weight room. So he let them come out, and I tell you, Chauncey was the fastest kid in the state that year. But I worked him to death, and we had a good bond and spent a lot of time together. And he was a really good kid. He's a great man now, a great father. He just had his second child, and great husband. But I called him up. We always stayed in touch. And honestly, I'd suffered an injury prepping. I had to have reconstructive surgery in my on my left bicep, and I really thought I'm probably not going to be able to do this. And so I was just going through the rehab process and taking care of my body and those types of things. And I just work hard. I work really hard. I go as far as I can go, that the doctors give me the bar, and I try to go as close to it or to the edge of it that I'm allowed to. And then they set me another bar. I just keep rolling. I don't let things come to me. I go after it. So my rehab went fast and well, and I was recuperating really well. My bicep was healing up well and dropping down. I had a distal tear, which it rolls it up, so I had to pull it back down. So after going through that, I just, with COVID hit and we weren't allowed to go in the gyms, so I kind of got a heads up that was coming with talk, and I just went after and bought every bit of equipment I could get, and I put a big gym in my garage. I got a detached garage with an apartment and a studio, and I just put leg press, squat rack, everything, deadlift, everything.
Very cool.
And when it shut down, my partners and I, we spent 9 months in that hot studio just banging it out every day. And I thought, well, I think I can do this. I think I'm going to be able to do it. So I just felt a change was needed. It was just nothing personal or anything like that. It was just, our directions were different. And, he's prepping for his pro debut, and he's going to kill it. And so I just, I was talking to Chauncey. I just reached out. I was like, hey, you got room on your team for an old guy, and he's like, heck yeah, man, let's do it. So in the minute we signed the paper, boom, we started.
Absolutely.
And it was balls to the wall. I mean, pedal was down. That's how I approach it. My gym partners think I'm a maniac, crazy. I agree with them half the time, but I don't have any other approach. If you tiptoe into something, you'll usually get blown back, and
Right.
I'm tired of getting up off the floor. So I just keep chugging along. And but Chauncey was great. I mean, had the programs laid out for me. All I had to do was execute and check in with him weekly, all the way up to bulk. When we finished bulk, I was at 230. And we started prep in February, 16 weeks. So I stepped on stage as 179. So we ripped it up pretty good. And I've never had anybody hammer posing with me more than this. I learned so much. I had a really good base knowledge from Eli, and he's one of the best around. There's no doubt about that. And I got a really good base, and a lot of that work ethic come from him too. I mean, he pushes you hard. If you're going to go in there and work out with him, you got to be ready to work. It's just that simple.
No, absolutely.
So,
and I was going to say too, like I'm going to say a lot because I mean, you really like to express yourself, as do I. And I don't want to interrupt that because once you start, I want you to just take it all the way. Yeah. But a few things I want to say there. First of all, I don't want to talk too much about Eli because I don't want to make you cry. If you cry, I'm going to cry because I cry. I'm a crier. There's nothing wrong with that. But the thing is, I can tell, I could always tell how close you guys were. I can tell that you're very grateful for where you came. And I can tell that you're very happy with where you are. And that's awesome. I think that a lot of times, Scott, when a competitor leaves a coach and goes to another coach, generally there's a bridge that's burned, there's bad feelings. I don't see that here. I see that you're grateful for where you came. You're grateful for what he taught you. Now you're in a different spot. You're with a coach that you're happy with, and you're moving along. That's a good thing. That's a really good thing. The other thing is, the bicep injury sounds absolutely awful, but I know you. I've interviewed you over the years. I've talked to you over the years. I know how you are, and I know that a bicep tear or a bicep injury is not going to sideline you. Why don't you tell the folks that maybe will see this that do not know you like I know you? Why don't you tell folks how you got started in the sport to begin with? Because I think when they know that, it'll really put into perspective the biceps. Yeah. The biceps, I mean, it's bad, but I mean, like you've gotten through a lot worse than that.
Yeah. I was a football player. I was fortunate enough to play college football and a little bit of professional football. And with football, well, first off, my dad was, he's a military guy, and we weren't allowed to express pain. We weren't allowed to lay on our bellies or lay on the field, so to speak. And he was really hardcore with my brother and I. And, it was always, don't ever let anybody show your weakness. If you want to go cry to your mom. And you probably wonder why I get all choked up about this stuff, but yeah. And I come up in the, in the 80s, in the late 90s or early 90s in high school. And our coach was like Bear Bryant. He was really hard on us. And so if you survive that, then that stayed with you the rest of your life. That was how you were going to be characteristic wise. So, going on into college is where I had a really good high school career, and I was fortunate enough to get a scholarship and play some college football. And my second year, just making a simple sweep, I played running back, and I cut against the grain. We were playing Morehead State, and I planted my foot and snapped my knee, blew out my knee. So in those days, this was 1996, ACL surgeries weren't as they are today. Like, you just very rarely came back from those things. And it was a complete ACL, PCL tear. But I had one of the best doctors around. He's retired now, but he had, probably don't know anybody that did it, but he worked on Joe Montana's elbow. He had done Kajana Carter's knee, Garrison Hurst's knee, and mine. So he worked through the Lexington Athletics and UK Sports, and the surgery that he used at that time was new. It was the newest surgery out, the newest technique. And so it was about an 8-hour surgery. And they said, well, when I blew my knee out, it was fourth game of the season. So the first thing I asked was, spring football, your scholarship depends on you playing. If I'm not playing, I don't get to go to school. So spring football started, in April. So I had 6 months. And in 6 months, you're supposed to start jogging. And I was sprinting in pads. My goal was to be in spring football participating full gear. And I went at it. I went at it just like I did this. That's what prepped me. I, blew that knee out, and I was up at 5:30 in the morning before classes started, did all my bending and stretching and breaking the scar tissue, aquatic work at noon, went to class. During practice time, when the guys were out practicing, I was doing strength training. So I was going 3 times a day, and for that, it was just because I wanted to get my education I couldn't pay for it. So that was the drive. And then I came back, got my position back, starting position back. Third game of the next year, blew the other knee out. Basically the same play on the opposite side. And, I had to go through it all again. But I knew it was the hardest because I knew what to expect every day. That was where this is where the perseverance came, because the first knee, I had no clue what I was going to wake up and feel like every day. It was going to hurt, this, that, and the other. And I had to make it to class. I wanted to get my degree, and I wanted to prove to all the teachers that I wasn't just an athlete there on a ride. I wanted my education because they hated that. So I just kept going, and I went to class, and I'd pass out in class, and my teachers would have to take me back to my dorm. Had tubes hanging out my leg with drainage and stuff. And I gained a lot of respect for that. And the next year I had to go through it all again. So that was the hardest because I knew every day what I was going to wake up and face. So when I blew out so leading into that, my senior year, I got 2 seasons back basically. So I got to play an extra year, and I just was fortunate enough, I had to change positions. I had to go to fullback. I wasn't as fast or mobile because of the knee. So to play, I had to gain some weight and go to fullback. And then our offense, we, passed the ball a lot. So I did a lot of pass blocking and ball catching. But senior year, it was senior week. It was a senior week, senior day week. And I was just a blue collar player at that point. And this particular time our head coach had coached for the Packers. And we had 4 All-American studs on our team. And we were a small Division II school, so it was hard getting scouts to come down and pay attention to us. So he had invited a couple of his buddies that were scouts to come down and scout these other guys. And they came down, spent the whole week, watched us practice and all that kind of stuff. And I was one of those guys that came out early and started working on catching, just the things that I needed to work on fundamental-wise. And I'd stay after practice and work on whatever I messed up that day in practice. And the quarterback would stay with me or whoever needed to do a little extra work. Well, they noticed all that. And I just happened to have an unusual game where I'd scored 3 touchdowns. I did really well, and that wasn't normal for me. And next thing you know, I got a contract. I got a contract offer to go overseas and play in Europe. So I took it and did it. And that's that part. That's what led into what I do now. And I went on into coaching. And that's how I met Chauncey. Great kid. He was a great kid. And, it was fun. And lots of things in life you have to persevere. You have to have the determination to get off the ground. And I'm just not one. And I try to teach my son that, and I can only teach him by, showing him. I'm not a words guy. So, but yeah. So that when the bicep tear happened, I just applied the same mentality. I said, I'm going to work this thing through the same way I did my knees, and I'm going to take it systematically, and I'm going to follow the doctor's protocol. I'm not, if it says I got 1 to 3, I'm not doing 2.5. I'm not doing 1.5. I'm going to do 3. I'm going to do 3 the whole time. If it hurts, it hurts. Right. Because that's the thing about reconstructive surgery. The pain is a good thing. It's healing pain, not getting worse pain. But
I'm sorry, but just real quick, the pain is good pain, but a lot of people cannot endure it. They can't. Yeah. Like Mr. Incredible here says you're a workhorse, and that's very accurate. You're saying 1 to 3, you're going for 3. It's a good kind of pain, like you said. It's going to, expedite the recovery, but a lot of people can't hack it. So, I just wanted to throw that in there.
Yeah, and I agree with that, and I get that a lot. And I can't. All I can do is be a beacon, I guess. I always feel like if one man can do it, I can do it. And until you try and you can't, I'm not gonna look at something and say, it's too heavy, or I can't do that. I'm gonna find out if it's heavy. But all I can say to folks is that everybody has a threshold. Respect your body. You know your limitations. I know what my limitations are. Unfortunately, I had to learn through, experiencing these things, just like in life. I had to experience injuries and overcome them if I wanted to keep doing this or that.
Right.
And it's no disrespect to those that can't. It doesn't mean you're weak. It doesn't mean those are just things you're not meant to do, or you're not built to do. We're still great people. Mm-hmm. Unfortunately, we're talking to a crowd that has probably experienced quite a bit of injury and does have these things. So they kind of can see what we're doing, because we're talking to a lot of folks that are on or listening, are in athletics, are in powerlifting, and where they're going to sustain injuries. And do you do that rep that you couldn't do last week? Progressive overload and progressing each week somehow, whether it's a rep or a set or a 5 pounds, just something. Right. And I learned that from Eli. I learned that from him. That was his biggest philosophy. Even if it's form, you're getting better. Find a way to get better. And you learn that, and then it just carries on into your real life. But getting with Chauncey has been a great experience. I don't know that he knew me. He knew me as a coach, and I pushed him hard, and he saw the benefits. I mean, he was, one of the values. The year I had him in track, I always tell the story and we laugh about it. He was fast. There's no doubt about it, but he got faster, and he was a worker. I mean, he did everything I asked him to do, and we pulled the parachute workout. I don't know if you know what that is. I attach a parachute.
Tell us what that is, please.
Well, it's a sprinting. It was very new at the time, and we had gotten it. And I was like, I got to get this because I know it'll help him. And what it is you've got this strap on like a parachute. It latches on at the back. Okay. And the coach holds it, and you take off. You take off running. The coach don't. You do. And when the coach blows the whistle, you pull a cord, and the parachute opens up and gives resistance in the sprint. So it pulls you back. So if you don't have that good forward lean in the sprint, it'll jerk you backwards. So you learn how to get the forward lean out of the box, and then you press through the resistance of the air through the parachute.
But that's interesting. I just to talk about that for a second. That's interesting because when you first started describing it, I thought you would pull it, but if the athlete pulls it, there's no possibility of injury because the athlete knows it's coming. But even though they know it's coming and there's not going to be an injury, it's a heck of a resistance, I would imagine. I'm a parachute. So.
Yes, it's like watching parasailing or people on the beach doing that. Yeah. And they'll jerk you back, and we fumbled with it. But I would put him through, I remember we'd do 16 110s, and then we'd do 8 200s, and then I'd have him run the 200 and pull the cord at the last 200 stretch around and you just take off like a bolt.
That's insane.
And it builds stride, it builds leg strength, hip strength. And the kid ended up running a 10-second flat in the state that year. It was a state record. It still is, actually.
Wow, and, that's crazy.
Yeah, it was crazy.
Jeez.
And that's where we built our bond, because he trusted me. I mean, that's some crazy stuff. Your coach is coming out with a parachute. He thought I was going to tell him to jump off the building. And I was like, this is what you're going to do. And we worked through it. I was learning it too. I'd actually learned it through the strength coach at UK when I was doing coaching clinics. So years later, here we are, the student becomes the teacher. Right. I just soaked in everything he had to say, and
definitely,
he is smart. Yeah, he's smart. I mean, both of my coaches have been very, very, very intelligent and systematic coaches, but I mean, Chauncey's very knowledgeable of the sport, every little minor detail that I would tell him, because I'm very transparent. I learned that from Eli too. Always be transparent with your coach, because he can't help you if he don't know what's going on. So and I told Chauncey, I said, whatever you put on the protocol, that's what I'm doing. I don't think outside the box. I do exactly what's on there. So if you say later, man, you should have had some ketchup or salt, it wasn't on there, I don't do it. I follow what my coach says to the T. And
awesome.
I think if you're going to go at this, approach this sport, you have to do everything. You're paying the money, you're giving the time, you're working yourself to death. Why not benefit from it? And nothing went in my system, nothing went in my body that was not in protocol or not in the plan. And, you tell your coach that, but he's not there with you. And if he's, a lot of people cheat, cut corners, they say they're not transparent. But then I'd send him my pics and the transformation he would tell me about. I don't notice it. He notices it. I just do what I'm told. And then I show up. And if you tell me I'm ready, I'm ready.
Absolutely.
And that's how, yeah.
Mm-hmm. No, absolutely. So, and I think just to echo what you were saying about, the coaching and all that, because, a lot of times competitors, and you don't do this. Robbie Tyler, who just joined, doesn't do this. But, sometimes competitors blame coaches, because they're not successful. But as you pointed out, if the competitor isn't 100% clear with the coach, because competitors can cheat on the diet, they go off the plan, the coach never knows. Mm-hmm. Unless they're 100% transparent with the coach, it isn't the coach's fault, and the competitor's not getting the best out of whatever the coach can offer. But what I wanted to ask you was about the bicep one last time, because I went back to the knee and now back to the bicep. But, you're doing men's physique. Now, men's physique, you're not judged on your legs. You can see your calves, but they don't judge you on that. You're judged waist up. So the bicep could really be an issue. I mean, it could really be, so I want you to, if you can, let's dive in more into your mental process to not only overcome the injury, but overcome any any negativity, any second thoughts. Yeah, any second thoughts. Because when you got on stage, you look fantastic, but there must have been a mental component as well as the physical component. And then I also want you to talk about the posing, because Chauncey, there's two people in Kentucky in this region that are known for posing. One is Chauncey, and the other one's Kevin Johnson. They're the two best posers, hands down. I don't care what day of the week it is; those two can just pose. So you working with him, I would imagine that posing was a central theme in the prep.
Yes, and that's great. A great question. I was worried. I was worried about the bicep and how it was going to look, and so when we got started, you do your little interview. Even though he knew me, he didn't know me from this point of view, and he asked me a bunch of some questions, and the main thing was man, I'm worried about my bicep. I don't, it looks awful. I don't do a front the double bicep pose, which you can kind of bring it in a little bit, it'll squeeze. But if I open up, you can see the 3-inch gap. And he said, I got you. That's all he had to tell me. He's like, I got you, man. I got you. He took all my worries away. And when your coach tells you he's got you, you listen to your coach. I'm one of those guys. I listen to my coach. I don't care how much experience I've had. I don't care. I go into it with an empty glass. That's how I was, with Eli. And the first day we met, I said, I had a lot of experience in weightlifting and strength training. I have a degree in it. But I said, man, I'm an empty glass. I don't know anything. I'll do whatever you teach me. And I said that same thing to him. And one thing I did learn from Eli, that another thing that was very important, I carried that over, is that he said, you do what I tell you and make it my fault if you don't win. He said, make it your trainer's fault. If you do everything I tell you to do, is what the trainer's point of view, and you don't win, it's my fault. Or not mine, but the trainer's fault.
Right.
And I took that mentality, and that's where I got that. He says, make it my fault. You do what you're supposed to do, and he said, it's on me. And that's how I approached it with Chauncey. I said, I'm going to do everything you tell me to do. So if I don't win, or I don't place, or I don't do well, right. Winning doesn't mean you didn't do well.
Not at all.
Not winning or placing does not mean that you did not do well.
Not at all.
That's what we all want. But I said, I'll work so hard that if we don't do what we're supposed to do, or it doesn't happen the way we want it, I'm going to make it your fault, buddy. Because I don't want the blame. And that's what I carry into the gym every day, into my meal plan. I spend 90% of my effort in the kitchen and 10% in the gym. The effort is in the kitchen. It's running your meal plan correctly. If it says 7 ounces of turkey, lean turkey, doesn't mean 6, doesn't mean 8, it means 7. And that's what you got to do. And that's my mentality on that. Now back to the bicep and the posing. Posing is Chauncey's.
But let me just jump in real quick. But that's great that you said that, though. That's great that you said that, Scott, because, again, like the diet, I think, like sometimes competitors, two things that you said. Sometimes competitors will overlook the diet. Like you said, if they say, 7, they might go 6, they might go 8. But the other thing, too, is that, like, if you're going to have 100% confidence in your coach, like you said, and he said, I got you. That's all you need to hear. And so, yeah, that's a great lesson you learned from Eli that you brought over to Chauncey. And I mean, look, it paid off. So I just wanted to say that.
Yeah. And it's true, and honestly, every coach is a good coach if their clients or their athletes do what they tell them to do. We do what we're told to do. It's like Jimmy Johnson with the Cowboys. He wasn't a good coach unless his players done what he asked him to. I mean, that's just the point of it. When I was a coach, I was only as good as Chauncey was willing to work, and I get the accolade for it, and he works hard. Right. He's out there dying. So my job was to go out there and make him the best coach ever. That's how I looked at it, and I was going to die doing it. It was going to put me through the ground or whatever. But back to the bicep. Right. He taught me poses to hide it. I put that sucker right out there in front and showed it. I didn't put it behind me. I didn't wiggle or waggle. He taught me how to pose. And it was funny. We only got to, he lives in Louisville and I live in Somerset. And as you know, we were having to do remote training a lot. We stayed in contact with each other. I probably bugged him to death. I know I bugged him to death. He'd just never tell me. But I was constantly in it because I sit around, my brain is constantly running through stuff, and I want to be perfect. And I wanted him to be proud. So we stayed in contact with each other. I mean, daily. I was sending him some message. I said, I don't even care if you answer. I've just got this stuff going in my head, and it's Swahili to everybody in my house. So I would send him just random little things, or I feel like I'm holding water here, or, I'm feeling digestive issues here that, I usually would know how to fix, but I didn't. It was seconds. All right, take a Benadryl, or, drink some Pedialyte. I mean, the cramps were so bad, it was insane. So, I mean, he always had right then, right there, always ready to go. And the programs were laid out just step by step that, a novice person could read it. And understand what to do. It was, I love the programming. The programming was amazing. It really fit my mentality very well. Very challenging. And not to say that the programs that I did with Eli weren't, they were intense.
No, and I don't think anybody would get that. And I just want to just jump in again. I think you've been so there's no question, the friendship and loyalty there and where you are now. And I don't know if it's because of, your dad in the military or you as a former coach, but I feel like you really do like structure. And I do feel like you like communication. And I think that's why, with Eli, it worked great. And I think that's why it worked great with Chauncey. I think the fact, like you even saying, it doesn't even matter if you reply, but I think for you, it's just like, you just want that transparency with your coach. You want your coach to know, even if it doesn't respond, you want your coach to know everything that's happening. So I think you really like the structure, I think.
Oh, I do. And that's one thing about, I'd want to say about, about Chauncey is that, I mean, this man works a full-time other business outside of bodybuilding and the Team Shredder. I mean, he has a very successful landscaping job, and he has a family, has 2 children, a family, wife and kids, and has time, makes the time no matter what, stops what he's doing in the middle of a excavation that he's doing or something, and he answers you. I mean, he takes the time for you. And I bug him to death. I know I do, because I bug myself doing it, and I just can imagine. But that's what he signed up for. I told him in the disclaimer. I'm very structured. I like to make sure that I'm doing it right because I don't want to embarrass my coach. I don't want to embarrass my family. I don't want to embarrass myself. And after the show, guys come up, talk to you, and congratulate you a little bit, but they want to tell you everything that they did not to win, why they didn't win, blaming this, blaming that. And I said, man, I appreciate it. Just, I just work hard. That's the secret. There's no secret. You just do what you're told. If your coach didn't tell you to do this and you decided to cut your stuff yourself or do your own thing, you see what that is. And,
but I got to say though, for a grown man, and not to be sexist, because I'm sure it's just as bad for women, but for a grown man, especially because we're guys, I feel like we're at a disadvantage because of pride or whatever. You've said something about 1 million times, and it's do what you're told. A lot
Yeah.
of guys cannot wrap their heads around that, let alone actually go along with that. They're like, no, you're going to second guess, you're going to fight. But if it's going to work, right? If it's going to work, you got to be like on the same page. And you're paying a coach because he's a coach. And if you're going to
Mhm.
listen to the coach and you're, like you said, you're going to do everything you're told, you're going to stick to your plan, you're going to stick to your training, you're going to do really well. And you did. But a lot of people just cannot wrap their heads around do what you're told. They just can't.
Yeah. And that was the thing. And I've had this discussion, like, I don't know, in the past 3 weeks, even probably 15 times. Man, how do you do what you do? I don't do anything. All I got to do is pick something up and set something down and put something in my mouth and eat it and go on. But you're told what to do. And that's why I like it, because even when I was a football player, I like to be told what to do. And I'm a behavior analyst now, and or behavior therapy. And a lot of the people I have to work with administratively want to set meetings differently. I say, you tell me what works for you, because I'm flexible. But I like to be, I feel safer just following directions, and that works. That just works for me. It might not work for everybody else. But I'll always ask, how hard do you want me to go? Because I'm going hard, no matter what it is in my life.
Right.
And that's not always good. It's not always good. But it's been a great experience. I can't wait to keep going with Chauncey and the things that we're going to do, and reconnecting with him and those types of things was really great.
And you just got off a stage like 3 days ago, so I would be remiss, in the words of Bob Cigarillo, if I didn't ask. But you don't have to answer. What is the future? Like, what are you looking at other shows? I mean, we got the shows in Northern Kentucky. We got the show in Lexington, Tricky Jackson show. I mean, that's just Kentucky, though. I mean, there's like a bunch of shows in Tennessee and Indiana. Are you, great answer, what a great answer would be, Scott. I have to consult with Chauncey. And that's
exactly what we that's exactly what we did. As soon as, and I kept jumping the gun, and he would back me down. He's like, look, man, I take it one thing at a time. We're here backstage. Don't think about the future. We're going to take our next meal, our pump session, our next meal, stage, backstage, off stage, rewards, and then we'll talk about it. And that's what I would do. I was like, we don't look ahead. And let me just say this. I talked to him, and I was ready to do nationals in July. That was kind of our goal at first. And I keep saying I'm old. I mean, I'm 46 years old. I'm beat up. I know, but my body is beat up. I got 2 replaced knees, got a pin in my left ankle. I got a pin in my shoulder here from clavicle in high school. My body just needed, my mind and heart says, let's go. My body's like, hey, dude, we need to have a talk. So I have to respect my body. I have a 10-year-old son, and I'm getting ready to have a 4-year-old daughter that depends on me to keep my stuff together. So what we talked about, this was a hard prep, Christian. I've never went harder in my life. It's like I had something to prove, and that I could do it, and coming back from all the different things. And I trained 3 times a day. The last, part of the prep was just, gosh, it was excruciating. And my poor fiance, I tell you, there's the winner. I mean, there's the best part right there. I mean, she, God almighty, put up with me during that prep. My mood swings, my hunger, just exhaustion, had to give up, a lot of family time, a lot of precious time. So mentally I was exhausted. And so we talked, and we decided to go ahead and get the system back in shape, and pull back a little bit, start next week to push towards improvement and look for a national show next.
Definitely.
I really wanted to do the Kentucky Open, because my past with Gene is with his wife. I grew up with his wife. So I really think a lot of them, like everybody in the industry does, and I wanted to do his show, but I'm getting married that weekend.
Congratulations, man. That's awesome.
Yeah, so
cool.
That had already been planned, and that before Gene had even announced his show, but Chauncey had picked the Derby for me. Big show, big show, big venue. And so we talked, and I think I want to do a national show. We're going to look sometime, maybe spring, or the Pittsburgh show in July. I really like that Pittsburgh show where we did our interview. That was fun.
Yeah, that was great. And I got to
Great
say,
trip. And I love the Steelers, so, it was a fun deal. So we're going to look for that. And based on how I do there, if I don't qualify again, you got to place top 5. If I don't qualify, then I want to do Gene's show.
But I have to say, though, I have to say, you sent me the pictures. You have a beautiful family. That's so awesome. Your better half is here saying how proud of you she is, which is great. I think it's so important to have that support. And I also think it goes back to what you said earlier too about teaching your kids. I mean, you can tell a child. I don't have kids. I hope one day, but you can tell a child till you're blue in the face something. But sometimes it's the actions that speak much louder than the words. And I think them seeing you go through this prep, even the 4-year-old. I mean, a 4, but still, kids are very impressionable. They see you. Rehabbing an injury, going through a prep, eating these meals. Why is he eating these meals at all these weird times and then like training when he could just take a nap and he doesn't do that? I think has a very positive impact on them as you're coming up. And so I think that's awesome. And I think it's great to have that support from your significant other because so many people in the industry, so many competitors just don't. So I think that's awesome.
Yeah, she was a godsend. I mean, she owns her own business. She's a beautician, a hairstylist, and she has her own business, and she's running her own business, taking care of me, taking care of the lack of fatherhood that I'm showing with my kid, and keeping the house together and keeping everything together, and helping me prep my meals or dragging me. The big thing is on after a leg day or whatever, my legs just seize up, and she's carrying me to the bathroom. If I gotta go to the bathroom because you're on so much water, you're just every 10 minutes. So. I mean, she's great. I mean, to have someone in your life that sees your selfish dream. What we do is very selfish. We don't have to do this. We put our families through an amazing amount of stress, but we choose to do this, and they know it's what we love and what we want to do, and they give your blessing, and they don't just say the words, "I'm with you, I'm supporting you." They actually do it, and she does. And we ran into a friend at the grocery store yesterday, and he, we were talking about that, and he's a power lifter, and he has a very good significant other that supports him because they kind of go through the same thing we do. It's just a different type of prep. But, with all the aches and pains and stuff that we all go through in this, and to have some.
Right. And it's what you go through. I've got to do a prep one day. I've got to do a show because it's not we, it's you, my man. It's you. I don't excuse me. So they go through what you guys go through. Go ahead.
Yeah, when I say we, I talk about the population that actually is crazy enough to do this stuff. Yeah.
One day I'll do it. But so go ahead. So yeah.
She's just a blessing and sweetest little girl, and I'm mean as can be when I'm during all this stuff, and it was hard. I saw it. I saw what I was doing, and it just made me feel worse. But I had to try to block it out and stay focused on what I'm doing, and she'd put me in check. She put me in check about 2 weeks ago. I was getting out of hand, and I couldn't help. I mean, I could help it, I guess, but you're so brain fogged. You just get very into yourself and detach and isolate. And she jerked me good, man. She pulled my ear back and said, "Hey, you need to recoil what you're doing here." And that really sprang me right into the last 2 weeks of prep and gave me a confidence. Like, nobody, if someone loves you enough to jerk a knot in your head when, they probably feel out of place doing so or whatnot. And she just did it. She loved me that much. And that was, and I told her when we started, I warned her about everything. I knew what I was going to go through, just like that knee injury. I knew the second time. And I remember at Christmas time, I said, "Hey, are you with me? Because this is all I can." It's like, you can tell me what it's like to give birth, but I'll never know. Right. So this is kind of that opposite for me, that it try to get her to kind of relate what I'm going to go through. I'm going to go through something you can never, ever understand unless you do it yourself. Right. But this is how I can tell you verbally. This is what you can expect week by week by week. Are you with me? And she's like, "I'm with you."
That's awesome.
And I knew it would make or break us. And we got to about, I don't know, at 6 weeks, things start getting tough. And we got to about 4 weeks, and I asked her to marry me. I was like, "You're the one. I'm not gonna I'm not gonna mess with this anymore. Let's just do it." And and because I can't live without you. And that's kind of how we did it. And it's kind of her fault. She chased me for a while and talked me into it. So
Her fault, totally her fault, absolutely.
it's my fault. I kept her, I just kept pushing her away for a long time.
Right.
But because I'm an idiot, I'm a dude. So anyway,
But I
but
think, I
yeah,
mean, I got to tell you, man, I think it's awesome. And one of the reasons I love you, man, and I really do, is that you're very, and it's crazy because I didn't know that you came from a military background. And there's nothing wrong with the military, but it sounds like your dad was just very, very like, uh, and you know, that probably his way of loving you was like just having you just be like ironclad, like made of
mhm.
rock pretty much. But it's just interesting how we're different than our parents in some regards. And so I think you're so much more in touch with your feelings and you're okay sharing it, you know, and you welled up a little bit and I well up. I mean, I've bawled on some of these before. So there's nothing wrong with that. But there's a lot of guys, unfortunately, that are just like, they just can't do that. They can never open up. They can't even open up to themselves. It's just like, I'm not judging, I'm just saying, but I think it's very freeing that you can do that, you know. And I think it translates to in how much you care about Eli and how happy you're working with Chauncey. It just overall, I think it's just a great thing. So, you know, I'm really happy that you're that way. And I think everybody around you is happy that you're that way.
Yeah, I want everybody to succeed. I want everybody to be happy. I want everybody to achieve their goals and have the best life possible. If we, I hate to call it a confrontation, but if people that I come in contact with, if we end up going separate ways for whatever reason, I still wish them the best, and I still want them. I'm gonna cheer for them as loud as anybody else.
Absolutely.
And I, just life is a journey. Life is a journey, and it is full of lefts and rights, and you just pray you make enough rights that you're not going in circles and going left and
Exactly.
or squares or however.
Right.
But life is
Yeah.
a journey, and you meet people for a reason. People are in your life for a reason, and there's a set amount of time they're in your life, but they're in that for a reason.
Right.
I've had great mentors coming up, great coaches. When I was a teacher for 15 years, I had great mentor teachers, and they, taught me something, and they were only there for a brief moment, but I still carry the things that they taught me because God put them in that spot for that amount of time at that part of my life for a reason. Just like you and I, we didn't just meet by happenstance. We met because we were supposed to.
Right.
And everybody you meet in this industry, you change them. You change their life. You help them out. You promote them selflessly, very selfless, and you genuinely want people to succeed in this sport.
I do. I appreciate that.
I love watching I call these things podcasts, whatever you want to call them.
I don't know what they're called. There's so many different, but yeah.
I know you see me log in because that's the only way that I can stay in contact with you or in touch with you, especially through the pandemic. We missed each other a couple of times when you came down by just seconds. And,
and now I'm not doing contest coverage anymore, at least not for the foreseeable future. So it's all social media, and I'm so happy I got Blackstone Labs and Titan Medical behind me. And I really mean that because without them, it'd be very, very hard to do this. But I'm so happy. And like usually, when I went down there to meet Eli, and I remember I actually got lost. You had waited as long as you couldn't have to leave. I didn't know where the hell I was at. And Somerset's about 2 hours away, but it's not a straight shot. There's so many different and so I got there like 3 hours after I said I would. And, but now we can just jump on and do this. And it's just like, we could do this anytime. So I just think I loved covering shows. That's in the past for me. This is the present and the future. And I just want to get like bigger and bigger on social media and have more platforms, eventually do podcasts and have you on more. And just go with it. For me, I think the contest coverage for me is like in the past, but I love where I came from and I love where I'm going. And same thing with you. So I really want to thank you. I got to prepare for Larry at 7, but I want to do this again because I think we just scratched the surface here. I really want to go in. I want to talk about a lot more things with you. But
even life stuff, I like to talk about life stuff, and just maybe we can,
because I get in trouble with politics.
No, I'm not a politics and religion. That stuff's not me. I like life journey type of things.
For sure. So
I think you and I talked about that earlier. I'm not going to keep you, but
no, it's okay.
Maybe we can help somebody.
I want to keep talking. I just got Larry at 7. And I just want to keep going. Plus, Instagram cuts you off after an hour, so we should probably do a Zoom. We could talk forever on Zoom. But I do want to thank you very much for doing this. I want to thank you for telling me about like everything. I'm so happy you're working with Chauncey. Congratulations on getting married. That's awesome.
Thank you.
Congratulations. The most important of all is getting married, by the way, but congratulations
Yes, sir.
also on, you know, the great placing at the recent show. And who knows where we'll see you next. I'm very excited. Definitely follow Scott here. And we're going to chop this up and have reels and stories for at least a week to come. I use my hands a lot because I'm Spanish. But thank you so much, Scott. I appreciate it. For Scott Dykes, this is Christian Duke, Strengthaddicts.com. Thank you, my man.
See you, buddy.
See ya.